Episode 6 of Season 2 of The Bad Batch reintroduced our beloved Wookiee friend Gungi, but I personally felt that composer Kevin Kiner took an easy path and relied on cliché stereotypes to tell this chapter of the story. I'll get into that and more in today's breakdown. This is Star Wars Music Analysis.
Do it.
From the very opening chord, we could tell something would be off with the Axis smuggling post. The low drones always foreshadow impending danger, and the string swells that seemingly come from and return to nowhere create a haunting effect that makes us feel uneasy. So it's no surprise to our ears when things start to go wrong for the crew. Fast but soft music enters as Omega and Gungi begin to run to hide from the droids. The music gets louder as the droids enter, signifying that the scene is no longer as quiet either. The underlying pulsing continues. Later, as Gungi force pulls his lightsaber and the ensuing battle begins, I feel like I'm hearing slight references to the Force theme. Just listen to this moment and how it outlines part of the Force theme.
Get to the ship! Get to the ship!
It could just be my imagination, of course, but I swear I'm hearing it here. After this, though, the music shifts to variations on short motifs from the Bad Batch theme as the crew quickly escape the situation. As we approach the surface of Kashyyyk, I couldn't help but think of comparing it to what we see and experience in Jedi Fallen Order. And by the way, if you have not seen my breakdown of the music while climbing the Tree of Origin, it's definitely worth checking out using the link in the top right of the screen. But this music feels very different. Kiner relies on more tribal hunting horn calls and wooden percussion and membrane drums to emulate the sound of a native tribe, which is what the Wookiees were always intended to represent. The dance-like music that introduces the planet quickly stops though as they enter the dangers of the Kashyyyk forest floor. And as they approached the spider-like nest, all I could think of was the Kashyyyk spiders that would attack out of nowhere in the Jedi Fallen Order game. But it was quickly evident that this was a different time for Kashyyyk, before the Empire had completely devastated the planet, and while it could still live somewhat in harmony with itself. Instead of the spiders, we get the Kinrath from Legends material that seem to be sentient to some degree.
Not attack unless we pose a threat.
The tribal hunting horns continue, a little too much in my personal opinion, but it guides us through the scenes while eliciting danger. And as we approach the burnt remnants of the Wookiee village, the high vocals give us empathy for what the Empire has done to these innocent villagers. Action music begins as the following fight unfolds, but it never gets too energetic, and you get the feeling in this scene that they aren't having to fight or try too hard to beat the Trandoshans. But the music subdues then as Gungi reflects on the destruction that is ensuing his planet. As the Wookiee warriors approach, the original tribal dance music returns. This time, as we segue, we also add a flute, being played with these initial scoops that give it a more tribal feeling as well, which is actually more synonymous with South American tribes of the Andean Mountains and possibly also of the Amazon. It bothers me a little when film composers carelessly take sounds from different tribal cultures like native Andean and Amazonian tribes and blur it with African tribal drumming because they just assume it's all non-European or Western tribal music so it fits. And I get that Star Wars has never really been kind to familiar non-Western cultures in the way that it portrays or utilizes stereotypes, but to me, this feels very cheap and cliche. And while I enjoy what Kiner does, I will admit that his music can sometimes become too reliant on stereotypes and parodies in order to portray familiar ideas to us. Compare this, for example, to what Williams does with the Ewok village in Return of the Jedi, and you can see that while aspects of this are still apparent, Williams never leans on these stereotypes too heavily so that we instinctively get a unique sound for the moon of Endor. I have the same gripe with other modern film composers too, and I hope that this starts to change soon, since this music, that's so rich in culture to us on Earth, is losing its place as a unique representation of these cultures. This is appropriation at its highest point, and I'd be curious if any of you have opinions on this as well. The tribal hunting connects to strings, high vocals, flute, and now the harp as well, as the Wookiees begin to pray to the trees, creating a very mystical and spiritual feeling. But as the ambush begins, we get a full orchestra with short bursts of the Bad Batch theme.
Crush them! Take what's left as trophies!
Brass attacks cut through the underlying low ostinato in the low strings. This continues until the Trandoshan commander, Venomore, begins to hunt Gungi with the flamethrower. This devolves into silence as the hunt continues in the next scene. The silence here allows us to hear every sound, like a footstep on leaves or a twig snapping, that's in this scene as our senses go on alert. Those senses can take a back seat though, as Gungi quickly unveils himself and the fight begins. The fight is quick though, and the Kinrath begin picking Venomore apart. Close dissonances move about in the strings. This is one of my favorite compositional techniques for very tense moments, and we get it a lot in film music. But it's called micro-polyphony. Polyphony is a term used to describe multiple voices moving at the same time. In this case, those voices are very close together, moving only half steps apart from each other, creating a cloud of dissonance. When that occurs, it's referred to as micropolyphony because of the micro or small intervals between voices. It was a texture and sound originally pioneered by composer György Ligeti in his orchestral piece Atmospheres. But it has always been impactful in film whenever there is a tense scene that involves something very uncomfortable, like a Trandoshan slowly being picked apart, piece by piece, body part by the sharp claws of the Kinrath, their blood-curdling screams being their final testament of life and first call of death. And remember, this show is for kids. As the battle subdues, so does the music. Silence permits reflection and inner thought at the beginning of the next scene. This then gives way to peaceful music as the Wookiees and Bad Batch commune together. But I would love to know what you all think as well. Do you think Gungi will return later in this season, or do you think he could be a part of upcoming media like Mandalorian Season 3, Jedi Survivor, or even the Ahsoka series? What do you think of Kiner's use of indigenous music styles in this episode to help tell the story? And did you know about micropolyphony before, or was this new for you? Tell me in the comments below and let me know if I've missed anything. Consider checking out my Patreon page using the link in the description, where you can help support this channel for as little as $1 a month, or download PDFs and MP3s of projects as I complete them, along with other perks at higher tiers. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to learn more about the music of a galaxy far, far away. And as always, may the be with you.